about SGA, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also message us on Telegram and WhatsApp. All the details are in the chat box. So, speaking about our guest today, she is a co founder and the director of Sundarji's Global Academia India, CEO of Suyog Sundarji Group of Institutes. A passionate educator, Masarrat Tawawala has been working relentlessly to educate, empower, and enlighten learners of a dynamic world community. An alumna of St. Xavier's College, India, she holds a MA in Psychology and Child Development. Continuing her educational pursuit, she has acquired a B.Ed followed by MA in History and from SNDT, topping it off with a remedial teacher's training level 5, specializing in education of children with special needs. Spreading her wings far and wide, Masarrat Tawawala is a program director at Rotary Club Pune. And adding one more feather on her cap, she's the head of the inclusive program at Drishti BJP Education Program and a founder member of the LD Forum. With over 30 years of experience in the field of education, without waiting any further, let's welcome Mrs. Masarrat Tawawala.
Thanks, Arva, for that very warm welcome. And I'm sure today all the participants are eager to have what happens inside a child's brain. So, I'm just going to have a first and informal chat. I would want to know, somebody's handling our chat box. I would want to know how many of you know the importance of brain development at a very young age? So let's quickly take to the chat box. I'm not testing you by any chance. I just want to know when I start my presentation, there should be more input on which areas. So the audience today, I mean, we've got a very good audience, and I want to know how many of you all know exactly in detail the brain development for a kid who's born from 0 to 8 years. So over to you in the chat boxes. So you can put in your comments that you've done something, you know why is it very important, what is about the brain development in kids, why do we need a lot of impetus on this development, why is this age so very crucial, why not like any other age, just let it pass. So I need to know your chats. And Arva, if you are handling the chat box, you can just tell me the comments of the people. We give you
Um,
about 30 seconds for it.
Please let me know if you're. I'm sorry. Please let me know if you're available to use the chat box. If you're not, please unmute yourself. Oh, there we go. The chat box alive.
Right.
So we have some answers. We've got major development happens during first 6 years, zero
Great.
to 5 years, 50% of a child.
Okay. Great. Some more?
Most of the brain development happens till the age of 7 years.
Okay.
Maximum development of the brain takes place during the early childhood years. First 8 years will have more impact because 90% of brain development is from 0 to 5, and someone said 0 to 6. And then we have various.
So basically, we all know that the maximum amount of brain development takes place from 0 to 6, 7, or 8 years. That's fantastic. So our audience is completely aware of this. But one more questions to shoot out to you all. What happens during, what is this maximum development? What do you mean by best development, maximum development, according to a teacher or a parent or a layman? What do you mean by it? Can you elaborate on this? Best development, maximum development. There you go, Patul. So there are some more answers pouring in. I'm sure Batul will handle the chat box.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we have capabilities, grasping power of brain, um, in terms of mass of brain and neurons, cognitive development along with social, emotional development and motor development, and then we have repeated. Oh, there's one more. Maximum knowledge of language takes place. Understand, respond, and
Fantastic answer.
more or less the same, similar lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic answers. So I take you off from here. Okay, let's have this 2 hours and 2.5 hours session. Beautiful. I'm going to show you some two videos, and that will tell you why your role is so very important as a parent or a teacher or a caretaker into this brain development of the child. So all of us know that the brain is a fantastic organ. How fantastic it is, I do not need to I do not need to tell you, we cannot underestimate the power of the brain. And just off the record, all of us, even if you have a very high IQ, say about bright normal intelligence 114, 134, 130, these are high IQ people, or even average, just to tell you that we only utilize 3% to 4% of our brain. So just imagine if you actually wanted to utilize your entire brain functioning, you would be super, super, super better than any other computers in the world. And it's the most awesome organ. It is the best computer organ in our body. You can say the way you have your laptops, the way you have your gadgets today, the way you look at it, the way everything is organized for you, the way the technology is that, but the brain is better than all these gadgets. It's super, super organized, provided you use it in the right way, provided the information processing skills that we are going to talk about is done in the most appropriate way. The way you take in the information from your senses and the way you respond to it, the way you multifunction yourself, the way you talk about your multisensory information processing, it's all about that in the brain. So when we say that it is the best organized brain, it is depends on you as an individual, as every kid, adolescent, adult, or any other individual, how best you are going to organize it. So there is no trick about it. It's the way you function, most important. All of us know 98% of brain develops within the first 6 years or the first 8 years, depending on each and every individual child. Now, this 98% is very, very crucial because that's the key to your entire adolescent or adult life. So, what happens in the next 20 years of your life, 30 years of your life will depend on the first 8 years of your life. Now, I just want to clarify one concept. That doesn't mean that you stop functioning or you won't get in information or you won't do your academics or you won't study or you won't learn a new skill. It is simple as that. What happens, the fastest growth of the brain is in that period. Now, for the brain to develop the fastest, it's not like something like a winding toy that you put the key onto it and it starts developing. It's not like that. So when we talk about it, we have to understand it will develop fastest only if you give that stimulation, if only you give that care, if only you give that nurture, if only you bring down the toxic stress in the brain, then that 98% is the fastest development. Even later, the brain keeps on developing, keeps on rejuvenating. But the pace that we are talking about in the first 8 years is like you're on a whirlwind spin. But later on, the pace is not as much as it would be in these years. And what happens in that first 8 years will remain there for lifelong for you. So it's like, when we talk about elderly people, senior citizen, above 70, 75, they usually remember what's there in their childhood, old stories, everything old, but not the recent one. That's the key to it. So we've all understood this. The next slide that comes up will help us to understand that the brain, when you say it's fastest growth, why does it develop fastest? These three are your key words. That the brain develops with only enriching experiences. It's not only on the food that you eat or the oxygen that is there in the amount or the chemicals that are secreted in the brain. The three keys are who gives you that enriching experiences. And those experiences can be only given by a parent, a teacher, or a caretaker, or children by themselves. So the brain develops only because of a stimulation given to it. Now, that stimulation is not some injection put into the brain or some chemicals put into the brain. That stimulation, that experiences are given to the child, and that's how the brain develops. So every experience that you give to the child, whether it's the playing in the sand or the mud or counting numerals or just exploring the environment or running around the house with specific purpose or playing with toys or going for a walk with papa mama, people discussing with him on the dinner table, outside the house, in the gardens, in the park, every minute the brain is taking in a new experience, and that experience enriches it, and that enrichment
What?
fast that you cannot compare to any supercomputer today. So that is why if that experience is lost from 0 to 8 years, then the that fastest brain development that we are talking about just does not take place. So now we have to understand that those 0 to 8 years are so very crucial. You need to do anything and everything under the sun to give the child those experiences. We'll come to a lot of experiences how you can give, but I just want to build up to this, that why is it so important. Now, experiences, I mean good experiences, and experiences only through play. Play is the key to the brain development. Play is the key to brain nourishment. Like your body needs carbohydrates, fats, proteins, brain needs enriching experience to playful interaction. That sentence you have to get imprinted with you as teachers, as parents, as caretakers, as shadow teachers, whatever it is. That is why even when we have a special need child and we identify a special need child as early as 18 months to 3 years, every development pediatrician, every individual doctor will tell you, give him an early intervention program. And that early intervention program means that you're going to give him stimulating, enriching experiences which are going to help him to overcome those difficulties. So the role of a kindergarten teacher is primarily very important, more than a high school teacher or a university teacher. The role of the parent in that 0 to 8 years is extremely crucial. Otherwise, whoever is taking care of the child. So this is in short. The next slide gives us a few takeaway points. Understand that the first 100 days are extremely crucial. In fact, I would extend it to 1,000 days because the recent research is talking about 1,000 days. That's your first 3 years. Till 8 years, extremely important, but this is crucial. There's a difference between crucial and extremely important. Crucial is your survival of your brain depends on this crucial 1,000 days. That's the first 3 years of your life on an average. That we've done a lot of studies. So I just want to cite one example. We've taken a lot of studies of children who've got beautiful enriching stimulation through their kindergarten or through their parents and through their mother tongue, and a lot of playful interactions, play in different ways, onlooker play, solitary play, group play, school play, every kind of play. And there are children, we've studied them in refugee camps or in prisons, children who are born in prisons with their mother, or who are displaced by a natural calamity and who have missed these 1,000 days, crucial days of life. And we've found that there has been dramatic impact on the brain of a kid who's got the stimulation and a kid who by natural circumstances or unnatural circumstances have been deprived of those enriching stimulations, experiences, playful interaction, and how the brain has developed. It's not that the brain will not develop after 8 years or 6 years, but it's like you missed the boat, you missed the bus, and that fastest development will not take place. So that's extremely important. I've already talked to you about stimulation and interaction, but there's one word we need to attach to it. These stimulations and interactions have to be loving interactions, have to be careful interactions, have to be planned interactions. Then you can say that they have been stimulation. If you keep a child to play the whole day, absolutely to himself, he will keep on playing. Very important that he plays. But those were not stimulating because he just played on his own and he kept on playing. There has to be a balance between just playing on your own, where the child is exploring his environment, he's engrossed in his play, taking his blocks, building it, breaking it. But here, if a caring adult is there with just 2 3 sentences telling him, oh wow, you've made a lovely tower, wow, this is fantastic, I think the balance is not good, that's what we mean. Then the child gets that stimulation that yes, there was something wrong. You're not guiding him, you're not facilitating him, but you are just there. At times, that kind of playful interaction is very important. Then there is 3 4 hours of play or activity or stimulation given by a good kindergarten teacher or a good kindergarten school who understands these kinds of why is the stimulation and interaction so important through wonderful activities which will take care of all the 47 information processing skills in the brain. We have like 47 information processing areas in the brain, and each one needs nourishment, each one needs activity, each one needs its own stimulation. Now, if that kindergarten teacher or if the kindergarten provides the entire curriculum based on these kind of stimulation activity, whether it's social or whether it's emotional or whether it's for physical or whether it's for language or whether it's for pincer grass or whether it's for just exploration, whether it's for logical thinking or whether it's for making decisions, these kind of stimulation activities has to be there. So all those 47 areas or the 4 lobes of the brain, they are balanced out. You just cannot give activities for reading, writing and arithmetic because that's only the left side of the brain, the language area which is on the left side of the brain. Activities has to be given for executive functioning, has to be given for logical reasoning, because tomorrow the foundation has to be based on that. It has to be given on simple activity like you give up 2 things, the block center and a manipulative play center and a role play. Let the child make his own decisions. Go explore this, go explore that, which you like better. Now, this is what we call activity for decision making. So like that, so many activities have to be given for that overall fastest development of the brain. And this has to be through play. It cannot be like I read about honesty from a book. You cannot be like that. Honesty will come through simple stories or simple play interaction when some child is owning up that, okay, he's taken a toy home. That's all. That's honesty about for a kid. But how you as an adult, how you as a parent or a teacher deal with that situation, in what way he will learn about honesty. So the brain in the first 8 years needs anything and everything to deal with. And that's where the foundation. That is why we keep on saying crucial development. Now, crucial is because emotional development has to take place in this 8 years. Emotions have to be controlled, how they have to be channelized, how they have to be, thought about, how they have to be expressed. Now, you cannot give a big lecture about emotions to a 3-year-old to a 8-year-old kid, right? Now, this is again through stimulating activities and enriching experiences. First of all, how to identify emotions, how to give an outlet to them. So constantly, whoever is taking care of the kid, whether it's the parents, grandparents, caretaker, teachers, they have to understand the science behind brain development. So if you are sending a child to an informal atmosphere, that is your kindergarten school for the first 6 years, you have to identify a good kindergarten, not somebody who brings in, lets there be outdoor plays, then puts on the music, opens the tiffin, and then has one more art and craft session and send them home. Even if they are doing this 4 things, it has to be stimulating. So when you're doing your art and craft, you're going to ask the right kind of questions at that point of time. Very, very important. Why this color? Why have you chosen this? Why not like this? Why did you draw this cloud? So the brain is again getting experiences. So it's not anything and everything you do has to be through playful, keyword, has to be stimulating, has to be lovingly done, caringly done, right input, right kind of questions, right kind of things. But the most important, why are the first 1,000 days very critical? because and the brain cannot go under toxic stress at this point of time. Pandemic, you know what it has got to do with children. I'm going to give you 2 3 examples of my own kids coming to our kindergarten. Stress for kids, for an adult also it's very harmful, but for kids it's like suicide. They cannot stand up and express, oh, I am under stress, like you and me. Oh, I am depressed, I'm not feeling happy. They do not have this vocabulary. They just cannot express all these things. So how does the brain react to stress? Now, what is a childhood stress? A stress when he is neglected by his parents, a stress when there is nobody to hug him, there's nobody to cuddle the child, a stress when there is nobody to talk to him, expressive language disorder. This is what we have seen in the pandemic for most of the children who are born just at the start of the pandemic to today. We've got children coming with very varied symptoms. We are amazed to see that they are aggressive, they're not talking, they cannot express themselves, they do not give eye contact. This is because somewhere they've gone through this kind of stress along with their parents. So many people falling ill, grandparents leaving them, some have lost their parents, grandparents, members of the family being cooped up, no stimulation, no play interactions. We've actually studied a lot about toxic stress in children at this point of time. So any stress in the kid, and how does a child develop stress at this age? Like I told you, loss of a parent or squabbles between both the parents at a crucial 1,000 days, or not getting the kind of interaction he needs with the parent, lot of comparison with one sibling with the other, the older sibling, the younger sibling, or a big family where there is a lot of chaos, maybe stress because the child is not getting enough food to eat at times, because if all the kids are not as fortunate as what we think, or kids who have gone through natural calamities, who are displaced by their home. Like we have got lots of, when we study about a lot of kids who have been displaced across the border, or by terrorist attack, or by natural calamity, like in Odisha, there have been floods. A lot of the kids have lost their parents, lost homes. Now that is the time when the brain is completely under stress. So that is going to affect the development. And if the child is between 0 to 8 years, definitely he doesn't know how to handle stress. The best way to relieve this kind of stress is give him a lot of play activities. We've also studied about the Rohingyas, the ones who have been displaced now in Chittagong and in Burma. Those children in those refugee camps are undergoing lots and lot of stress, and that is why that brain development is going to take a backseat. Coming to the next, I'm just going to talk to you a little about the architecture of the brain. So as you all know, that the brain is divided into two halves. Patul, can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. As you all know, this is superficially divided for yours and my knowledge, but there is nothing like that, two halves. But yes, there are different lobes of the brain. We'll come to it later on. So you have the architecture of the brain says that when a child is born, the brain is very, very soft. It's like a sponge. You can just take it in your hand and you can squeeze it if you actually have to study the human brain. It's very primitive also. It's like only 25% it's developed. It's a little pinkish in color. It's not like later on what you see. It's not exactly there. It's got all wrinkles, it's got white matter, it's got gray matter, and it's very light. It's not as heavy as your body. And this middle line that you see, like the two halves, if you see, it's more of an imaginary line, but yes, there is a midbrain connector. That midbrain connector, stimulating activity for that midbrain connector is extremely, extremely important. What do I mean by midbrain line activity? So research tells us that, you know, when you talk about the left and the right side of the brain, you need to understand that you need to have activities which overlap, from one side of the brain to another. So we give a lot of activities, lot of playful interaction, lot of stimulation for this mid connector brain to develop, which is extremely important. So you will have, your right hand touching your left toe, your left hand touching your right toe. So these are midline activities. So as a kindergartner till 8 years, you, for that kind of stimulation, you need to do a lot of brain gym exercises which helps the right and the left side of the brain to connect. So that is extremely important. So this is little about the architecture of the brain. Let's go on to the child's brain. It's primitive, it's very, very underdeveloped. It's there, but it is underdeveloped. It's only 25% it is developed. Adult brain and a child's brain who's born is completely different. So we look into the next slide, which tells us only 25% at birth the brain has developed. It's that primitive, that of an adult brain. And what happens by 3 years, 80% of it develops, and definitely by 6 to 7 years, 98% is developed. Now you know why 1,000 days are very crucial. If everything is going to happen at that point of time between 0 to 3 and 0 to 6 and 0 to 8, we need to be extra careful. And I think today we have a mixed crowd. We have some parents and we have early childhood educators. Whoever is an early childhood educator here today, a humble request to understand that your experiences as a kindergarten teacher or as an early childhood educator is going to be extremely crucial for your child. So no chalk and talk method. You need to keep that locked under lock and key. Everything has to be hands-on, activity-based, concrete learning experiences, bringing to class and taking it to the next level. Okay. So now let's go on to the next part of it, which is the most crucial part, which you and I need to understand. So you've seen this diagram and all of you understand that there are thousands, billions cells in your brain. Okay. So the brain contains cell bodies of neurons. So each cell body is called a neuron. There are many. You just will not have a count of it. And they're so tiny. You'll have to, they look big for this picture, but they are not as this big. They are very tiny. This is what is the brain chemistry all about. And so you have billions of neurons in your brain. And the child's brain, when he's born, is only 25% developed. So he has less neurons, but as he goes along the line, the neurons keep on expanding. And each neuron has an extending fiber. You can see those fibers coming out of the cell. That fiber, each one, that fiber is called axon. I made it very simple. Of course, it's not as simple. When a neurologist will talk to you in a medical terms, it's very complicated. I've just made it very simple for a layman, for a teacher, for a kindergarten, for a parent to understand why brain is such an awesome organ and why are the first 1,000 days so very crucial. So each neuron, coming back to the diagram, each neuron has these fibers which are called axon. Now, what is this axon? So you see, every little cell has so many fibers going down. And at the end of each fiber axon, there are, these shoots, there are branches, like there are twigs that are branching out. And that are called, those branches are called synapses. Now, this is where everything occurs. So these synapses are the ones which send out signals. These signals are nothing but what you take in, what you see and you observe. Like, for example, you're seeing me on the screen, very tiny screen. You're hearing me. You're writing down your notes. You're using your multi-sensory approach. A child, when he sees a nice cat got to his class or a small rabbit got to his class, he's pretty excited. So what does he see? He sees that rabbit. He sees the rabbit running around. He touches the rabbit. It's nice, furry, pinkish ears. The teacher has given the rabbit a little cabbage to nibble on. So he sees him nibbling. He sees a little sound that is made by the rabbit. All this is absorbing by the senses. So he's seeing it, he's hearing it, he's touched it, he's felt the environment around it, and he's heard the teacher talking about it, and he's learned the giggles and the squeaks of his fellow. This all this in split second is the information taken from all the senses that we've spoken about. It takes in that information and sends it quickly to the brain. The brain organizes the information at that time, processes it. It's called information processing. So you have these 47 sub centers in your brain which process the information. You cannot say which center is processing what, but it happens supersonic speed. It processes the information for the kid. Oh, you've seen the rabbit. It's white in color. It's got pink. It's nimbling. It's making this squeezy sound. My teacher has spoken about it. And quickly these sites, these axon, these tendery, fibery things at the end of each axon, they transmit these messages saying, oh, you know, you've seen the rabbit, you've seen this, you've seen that, the color is white, it's got pink here. They'll keep on transmitting it. And once they keep on transmitting this information, it gets strengthened. This information gets strengthened. Now, for the child to strengthen this information, which he's taking it at least 15 hours a day, because that's the time he's awake, he has to keep on doing this information processing skill. It's done automatically. Nobody puts a lock and key and says, now I've locked this information processing skill and I'm going to sleep. It doesn't happen. It just keeps on happening it all the time. It happens with you. It happens with me. It happens at the age of 80. It happens at the age of 3 years or 2 years, or even when the child is born. So when these neurons take in constant information and constantly processes it, certain times that information is deleted because it's not got repetition. But it doesn't happen once. The teacher has talked about the rabbit, is going to bring it back through an activity or an audio visual or discuss it again, it gets strengthened. And that's how informations are there to stay in the brain. Now that crucial connection happens, and that's called a synapse connection. So, and it happens through these neurotransmitters, the neurons which keep on transmitting message. Now, why do we need to know this? I'm just going to discuss it in my next slide. Why are these synapses so very important? And why do we say that this first 1,000 years, everything is linked? I mean, 1,000 days are so very crucial. So the synapse, I'm just going to explain you in this technical term, that the gap at the end of each neuron that allows this information, signal is that allows this information to pass from one neuron to another, is called a synapse. So there are billions and billions of neurons. So each neuron is telling the other neuron, look, I have seen this, I've seen a rabbit, I've seen this, I've seen that. The other neuron absorbs that information. And we don't know whether it goes, what goes into the C neurons to keep it in the long-term memory. So constantly these neurons are interacting with each other, and constantly they are telling that getting information, processing it, and storing into the long-term memory of the brain. So there are two memories, short-term memory and long-term memory. It goes into the long-term memory. Then there are working memory. The frontal lobes are called for working memory. So there are so many memories for the brain. But for the child, this is very crucial, that he connects the neurons with the other neurons through the synapses and keeps on connecting it. And only when these things are connected, and then the long-term memory, the connection is stored into the long-term memory. And here is the key, that the fastest synapses take place first 6 years or 8 years. So because of these synapses that has to take place, and because their synapses are fastest from 0 to 8 years, that is the crucial time that you need to give so many stimulating experiences, enriching experiences, playful experiences, meaningful experiences, loving experiences. That is the key to it. When they do not, the later on the synapses are not going to be as fast as what they are till the 8 years. So now it's up to us to understand the brain chemistry, have a peek into the look of the brain of the child, and then decide what activities do you need to give the kids. Okay. So every new experiences that the brain takes in from the environment creates a new connection in the brain. That is what is very important. And the repeated, Bratul, yes, sorry, you've got to the next slide. So every new experiences, whatever a teacher gives, the parent gives, whether it's taking him to a hotel, whether it's taking the child to the park, going up the slide, going down the slide, he repeatedly goes up and down the slides. Now that's not just mechanical. He's figuring it out from that experience. How fast can I go on the slide? How slow I can go? If I went down fast, I fell off. The brain has registered this. It has, the synapse has made a connection that you need not go very fast because you're going to fall. He does it 2-3 times, goes very fast, has a bump on his bum, realizes it, the synapse has made the connection. You need to go slightly slow. Next time again goes up on the slide, comes down slightly slowly, but gets stuck. Synapse has made the connection that this was very slow. You were extremely slow on the slide. Goes up again, finds a middle part. Now nobody's telling the kid that you need to go slow or fast. He has to do it on his own self. How does he do? Through enriching, stimulating experiences. Now just imagine the same child was not taken on a slide. The parents are scared, scared of this, scared of that. That's what has happened in the pandemic also. Unfortunately, children have missed out on the most beautiful, stimulating play interactions. Now, when I see a kid going up on the slide, it's very, very different. So that I can actually view when experiences are lost. So like that, I can keep on going to tell you how much are those playful interactions so very important to the child. And repeated experiences, whether it's a slide, swing, playing with the dolls, or playing with dough, or making tires, or just taking a tire and rolling it out, strengthens all the connection because it's not meaningless play. He's trying to figure out, like, look, I did this, so this happened. But at the same time, the brain is also registering that you have done this, so this has happened. He tries his own way to solve problems, come to a logical conclusion that my base of my tower was not very strong. I've taken so many blocks, but my small block was down and my big block was up. So my tower fell. Nobody needs to tell him like that. That will only come through repeated experiences till he finds the ideal solution of how, what the base should be and what should be the top. Now that you and I cannot teach out of a leaf of a book. It just cannot be done. And at the same time, you need to talk to him about it. Okay. So that is why the crucial development. I have written something in red. No connection, the neuron dies. This is the message that I want to send it to you. And it's so very crucial. What do I mean by no connection? Like I've told you, suppose if the child is deprived of this playful interactions, or he has very few playful interactions, or he has very minimum, his caretaker or a daycare where they have put him just doesn't give those stimulation to the kids, or does not have those facilities of play, or maybe he's kept with his dada dadi or nana nani who's pretty old and cannot do, so he goes and sits in front of the TV, which is one-sided, which makes no sense to the kid because it's not getting stimulation to the brain. No screen time, Cartoon Network, all can give stimulation to the brain. The stimulation to the brain will only come through hands-on activity. So no connection to the brain, what happens? Those synapses die a natural death. They just don't connect. So I'm going to show you further on a very beautiful video to see that when the brain is not connecting it, what happens to those neurons? So there we come on to learn by experience. I want to stretch here is, so once we have established this fact by research that most of the neurons die when there are no good interactions. Coming back to the next part of it, I just want to dwell on the toxic stress. So Let's look at that. There is another reason why the brain will not connect and no new neurons will make connections. One is because of the toxic stress, which increases in the child due to any kind of trauma. Pandemic was a trauma to the kids, to all the kids, to us. So the stress was very high. What happens when the stress is very high? The chemicals secrete in the brain. So all of us know that there are chemicals in the brain, and the entire brain chemistry is controlled by the chemicals. Sometimes the chemicals are increased in large portion, sometimes in less portion. Both are very harmful. Any extreme is harmful. Now to now to release those chemicals in the brain in the optimum amount, you need not have toxic stress. So if there is stress, either the chemicals just flow or either it is very less. So that is where you have to control. So each chemicals, whether it's dopamine or serotonin, they control the entire brain metabolism. So your mood swings, your depression, the different areas of the brain have different kind of working or different kind of emotions. They all do different functions. So in case if the chemicals are secreted more because of the stress level has increased, then definitely it is going to cause trauma to the brain. Now at that point of time the brain shuts down. In a kid, you and I can come back to it. We will do deep breathing, we'll do yoga, we will go out for a walk, we'll listen to music. But for a kid, when there is a trauma to the brain, when the stress is very high, when the stress increases, then the brain shuts down, and it takes 2 to 3 hours for the brain to revive itself. Then in that time the child is very sleepy, cranky, temper tantrum, stubborn, doesn't willing to listen. That's the way he reacts. So to bring down the toxic stress, understand that the child should not undergo this, and he should not be beaten up, he should not be compared, he should not be ridiculed, he should not be sexually and physically abused. These are the things that will bring lot of trauma to the brain. Do not fight in front of him. Parents should not be fighting. Absolutely beating is not allowed to the child because it creates a lot of toxic stress in the brain. Anxiety situation where you say I'll lock you up in the bathroom, it creates panic, anxiety. The moment anxiety is increased, colic increases in his stomach, the gases increase in his stomach, and they keep on going up, and the brain undergoes a lot of stress. The moment you start all this nonsense, I will take a candle and put a burn on you, I'll lock you up, remember your father will come, he'll beat you up. These create a lot of panic situations in the kid, and that brings stress. He's constantly thinking, now it's going to be night time, my father will come, my father will beat me, my mother will do this if I don't do this. That's a lot of stress for the child. And of course, depression. We've seen a lot of kids undergoing depression, various reasons. Again, split parents, or not having a very good congenial background at home, squabbling parents, parents away for a very long time, displaced by it. Maybe they've lost a parent, loss of pet, change of cities, so many things that causes depression. And of course, as I told you, it influences the neurons. So the brain cells turn on and off all the time. Whenever there is stress, it turns off and nothing takes place. So even before the exam, if why do we say that before the exam, children should not be anxious, should not be, hyper? That is for simple reason that the brain is under stress. If it is under stress, nothing, no new learning is being taken place. So the brain switches on and off. For kids, it just goes on and off mode. And in the off mode, nothing understands. The child does not understand. He may sit with a book or he may sit with a toy, but actually nothing is taking place. So that's a very evil stress that we got. So if your neurons you want to make the synapses the fastest from 0 to 8 years, and even later on, see that there are no stress in the child. And of course, as an adult, I'm not saying that we don't have stress, but control those stress with your cardio activity, with yoga, with music, by keeping me time to yourself. Evil stress is very evil for the brain. So let's go on to the some of the brain facts for the kids. Very, very important. So how many, this is a fascinating fact. In fact, for you and me, it's very important. For all the early childhood educators, it's very important. Each brain, on an average, connects 40,000 synapses. Can you imagine? On an average. So 40,000 synapses take place. But do we remember 40,000 things? No. Only when it is repeated and recapitulated, then the brain remembers it. So many experiences, you go to a place, you've gone, you've seen, you will remember it vaguely. But if you've gone there 3 times and you've dwelled in that place and you've understood that place, if the child has understood it, then definitely that connection is made. So the route he takes to the school, he's gone on the route, he's seen the shops on the route, he's seen the same policeman, same signal, he's seen another bus passing to the same time. Definitely it goes into a long-term memory. So those synapses have become very strong because there was an interaction. Another thing is fascinating facts. All brain cells are not alike. Look at the 10,000 specific different kind of brain cells. This is just an average figure. So you can imagine every cell is doing a different work. There is no prototype. Like you don't have 10 fingers which are the same. So 10,000 specific different neurons are there. So you can imagine each one is doing a different work. Some are looking into music, some are looking into art, some are making connections for experiences, some are making connections for thinking, some are making connection for logical thinking or decision making. So each one is doing their own kind of work. Each one is very important. Next fascinating fact, only 5 minutes without oxygen can damage the brain. So the constant oxygen is being supplied to your brain. Now that's where, this is for the kids I'm talking. I'm talking everything from the point of view of the kids. Now, why do we need to say that when the children come in, let's give them outdoor play? Because outdoor play is all running and moving and moving their limbs. We always say don't take the child into the classroom without a lot of playful interactions. The more the playful interactions, the more oxygen is taken in, more carbon dioxide is out. For my special children, I always say before they come to school, see that they go up and down the steps at least 2-3 times, or they take a jog and come. Start with the breathing exercises, do a lot of deep breathing. Why do we say all this? For the simple reason is that you need oxygen to start your day with. So every kid, however old or young he may be, whether you have a ground, society, not society, or you don't have a gym or gym, the child does not need a gym. On the spot marching, on the spot jogging, they love all these activities, right? All activities which help them to take in more oxygen. That is why after every 20 minutes, a child has to do a movement break. A movement break will also help him to get in more oxygen. And we do not want children to be without oxygen. Now, it means it causes brain damage 5 minutes without oxygen. But our body constantly takes in oxygen and gives out carbon dioxide. But that's not enough. We want children to take in maximum oxygen. If it doesn't take in maximum oxygen, then the brain is not functioning up to its optimum thing. It's not that it's not getting oxygen, but it's not getting enough oxygen to nurture the brain. That is why the child needs little bit more food every little time. Not like you and me. He needs like chotu meals. He needs small meals because that's going to burn the glucose and give the oxygen to the brain. He needs something. He comes to drink water. He eats this. He needs that. That's how it's going to do it. He will suddenly get up, suddenly run around. These are very, very important for the child because that's how his brain chemistry works. That's how those 10,000 specific different kinds of neurons will connect. That's how the synapses are fastest within the first 6 years. So remember, friends, that you're going to start your day for any kid anywhere with a lot of playful interactions, with a lot of physical exercises, with a lot of deep breathing, and every moment of time as a teacher, as a parent, caretaker, see that you give him a lot of stimulating activity. Let's go on to the next part of some brain facts. So let's go to the infants. Infants have approximately 100 billion neurons and make approximately 63 trillion connections. These are the latest brain research facts. One or two, it could be here and there, but not drastically. Now, can you imagine approximately 100 billion neurons in that tiny little 3.5-pound brain? That's why we say it's an awesome organ. That's why we say it's a fantastic organ. That's why we say that it's better than any supercomputer of the world. And look at the synapses it's going to make, 63 trillion. And if it doesn't make those connections, that is why we say that we only use 3 to 4% of our brain. If we were going to use the entire brain mass or entire information processing skills, I think you would be a supercomputer. That's it. I can just summarize it in that. So approximately you have 85 neurons die every day. That is equivalent to 1 neuron every second. Now, why do neurons die in the kids? Why do 85,000 neurons die every day? Because there's no stimulation for that neuron to make the connection with the next neuron. Synapses are not taking place because the child has not got that stimulation. He's not got those interactions. My kindergarten teacher has not given me those kind of activities, hands-on, whether it's art, craft, whether it's pincergraphs, or whether it's playing on the swing, slide, bucket, spade, anything and everything. I have not got those interactions. I have not got those stimulations. My 85,000 neurons died a natural death. Every 1 neuron is dying every second. That is why those 6 years are so very important, 8 years. So when people just, so many times I've asked these questions to a lot of people. Why is it that everybody knows it's it grows fastest, it grows fastest, it grows faster. But we don't realize that this is the reason. The synapses is the main thing. And we just take it for granted. There are times when I've seen caretakers, parents and teachers quietly doing their activity. And they say, oh, I think that the child needs the quiet time. Yes, he needs the quiet time. He needs to get himself back. He needs that breather, but not that half an hour. Not that the parents put him onto a screen, which is the Cartoon Network or any kind of thing, and say like 2 hours I'm going to do my WhatsApp with my friends. Absolutely not. Never mind if the child is there with you playing, hands-on, doing anything. You are just there. In that 15 minutes, maybe you've just given him a nod, giving him an eye contact, just ruffled his hair, just touched his palm. That is also interactions. Every time you need not talk, but it has to be there. Whoever it is, it could be his caretaker, it could be at daycare center, as long as the interactions are taking place, and we hope that most of the neurons make those connections. So that's a little about it. This is the time I'm going to play a little video in my next slide for you to summarize what I have talked about, and maybe after this we'll have a little chit chat before we go on to the further.
A child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. During this important period of brain development, billions of brain cells called neurons send electrical signals to communicate with each other. These connections form circuits that become the basic foundation of brain architecture. Circuits and connections proliferate at a rapid pace and are reinforced through repeated use. Our experiences and environment dictate which circuits and connections get more use. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, Meanwhile, connections that are used less fade away through a normal process called pruning. Well-used circuits create lightning-fast pathways for neural signals to travel across regions of the brain. Simple circuits form first, providing a foundation for more complex circuits to build on later. Through this process, neurons form strong circuits and connections for emotions, motor skills, behavioral control, logic, language, and memory during the early critical period of development. With repeated use, these circuits become more efficient and connect to other areas of the brain more rapidly. While they originate in specific areas of the brain, the circuits are interconnected. You can't have one type of skill without the others to support it. Like building a house, everything is connected, and what comes first forms a foundation for all that comes later.
Great. I'm sure we've understood the importance of connections, synapses. We've understood what is pruning. So those connections which are not paired, the neurons just die a natural death, they fade away. And that's what it is all about. So before we go on to picking the brain and we talk about now what kind of experiences we have to provide, what are the activities we have to look at, I want a quick, it's been more than 1 hour, 10 minutes. Let's look at the chat box. Come on. I want you to quickly answer me. How was the first part of the presentation? Have you actually understood it? And secondly, is what are your key takeaway points? So you can quickly put it in the chat box. I hope we were very clear in explaining you with a lot of examples. Hope you really like the first part of the presentation. So, and in case if you have any questions, we will answer at this point of time for the first part, and then we go on to the second part.
Just give us a few more seconds for everybody to type.
Perfect.
We got a compliment from Sayali. Understood really well. Actually, everyone's complimenting us. Thank you, everyone. Let's see. Very well explained. Gainful. We understood everything, ma'am. Simulation is the most important factor in brain development. Lovely presentation and so enlightening. Thank you so much. First part was good, was more informative. Hands-on activity and playful activities are needed. The play way is the way to brain development. I agree. First 1,000 days are most important. So lots of interaction simulation needed. That's key takeaways. Let's take that one. Stimulating experiences at the right time in the right proportion. True.
I like that remark.
Yeah,
Right time
that's
and right
really true.
proportion. Whoever has said it. That's right proportion is also very important. No
Correct.
overdoing it and no underdoing it.
And we have many more. I guess a lot of people understood what you're trying to say, ma'am.
I think then we don't need it now. Let's go on to the next part, Batul. That would be
Sure.
very important. So now we a little about what are the different areas of the brain. So I'm going to talk about the different areas of the brain. I love this part the most, in fact, because it helps me to solve the mystery about this first 1,000 days and 8 years and all. There's always a mystery surrounding it. And I've met many parents after the pandemic, and this is just off record. I want to tell you, when they come for admissions, they'll say, "हाँ ठीक है, 2 साल बच्चा नहीं गया तो क्या है?" Then I will ask them my next question, or my people's ambassador at the front office will ask them, "What did the child do?" कुछ नहीं ज्यादा, थोड़ा टीवी देखा, थोड़ा खेला, ये वो. And then, I mean, we can't sit and explain this whole thing, but we really feel inside bad that, oh God, we've lost 3 crucial years. And some of the parents are like, I just don't feel I just don't feel the importance of doing anything for the first 3 years. It's okay because his father went to school at the age of 3.5 years, and I also went to school. But we none of us realize that what we've lost is lost forever. So it's very, very important that even if the child is at home, it's fine, but then you are responsible for giving him that stimulation. It's okay for the first 7 years if you keep the child with you, but see that you are the child's own teacher as a parent. Or then you need to choose the place where the child goes, whether it's a daycare center or whether it's a kindergarten or it's early education center. You have to choose it very, very wisely. That's very important. So let's look at the different areas of the brain and the way they handle. So every area of the brain has a different function. That is why sometimes, there is a trauma to certain part of the brain and you may lose the speech, but your hands and all are functioning properly. Or it could be your right side is paralyzed, but the other functions are there. So it just depends on different areas are doing what. So let's look at the frontal lobe. All of us know where the frontal lobe is. The entire picture tells you where is the frontal lobe. This is where your frontal lobe is, the front portion. I've just marked it. So let me look at the frontal lobe. Very, very important. This frontal lobe is actually another name for it is the executive brain. Everything is happening in that. So any trauma, injury to the brain is a problem out there. So many children have a fall. I'm linking it to the kids and not to the adult. They have a fall, and there are some parents or grandparents who will say, "ठीक है, बच्चा गिरेगा तो it's good." No, it's not very good. Not for the trauma to the brain, because though the brain is protected by the skull and then there is a fluid and then there is a white covering axon, but still there will be a trauma to the brain. So please don't go by what everybody says. Let's see what the research says. So that frontal lobe looks into abstract reasoning, thinking. What is abstract reasoning? Is like, okay, the child knows that I want to go down to play. And if I have to go down to play, he doesn't still have the sense of time. A 3-year-old cannot say it's 4:30, 5:30, but he knows that when he gets up from the sleep, he goes down to play to his society or he plays. But he also knows that when the sun goes down and when it's a little dark, I need to come up. Now, this kind of thinking for a child is abstract thinking. He doesn't know the time, he cannot pinpoint on it, but abstractly thinks that every time when I look up at the sky or when I look outside and it is a little grayish and it is little dark, I need to come up. Now, it could be on a particular rainy day, it suddenly become dark. And many children say that it's become night. That's abstract thinking. Okay, so when you do that frontal lobe is responsible. So now you need to give activities for that abstract thinking. What will you give? Like spot the difference or how to find a maze. That is in a maze, how to find a way. That's what it is all about. Problem solving. You cannot give him a lecture on problem solving. That, okay, you have a problem, now tell me how to solve. But problem solving has to be done in different situations. So it would be like, okay, we would give situation, we do give it to our kids. That suppose as young as they are, we do something called thinking routines, we do focus forum with our kids, and that's a way to do a lot of problem solving activities. Suppose if I tell the kid that you have gone, okay, we have a puppet and this puppet has visited the circus and it has got lost. Now what will the puppet do? So everybody will say, the children will usually say that he starts crying. Okay, fine. But will crying help him to find his mama, papa? No. Then they come up with this little solutions that now they are more tech savvy, that we will take a phone and ring up. But then we'll say, you don't know your mama's number. So we don't know our mama's number. So what do we need to do? We should know our mama's number. So next time we will learn the numbers. That is the way. Next, what we'll do? So we will go to somebody and say, I have lost my mama. But how will you say? Maybe you don't know how to say it in English. So then you will say it in your own mother tongue. What if that person doesn't understand? The teacher will keep on probing. What if the person doesn't understand? So he's saying, then which other language you'll speak? So then you may say it in Hindi. So that is how what is called problem solving all about. So this is giving situation. This is giving stimulating activity about creating a situation and taking the children to the next level. So all of us have to be mindful that there was one comment, what activities to be taken up, how much to be taken up, what age relevant to be taken up. It is very, very important. Reasoning is also a part of frontal lobe. Now for reasoning, you can have worksheets, you can have spot the differences, you can ask interrogative questions, have investigation corners, a lot of things. So the frontal lobe does all higher order functions, executive. Now for a child, what are the higher order functions? It's as simple as he's got his t-shirts in one pile, he's got his pants in another pile. Usually what the parents do, remove a t-shirt, remove a pant and mechanically make him wear. But if you want to start making him use the frontal lobe, you need to ask him, you have a choice of 4 t-shirts, which you would like to wear. So he'll say, okay, I want to wear this white t-shirts. Probe a little, why white today? He'll say, whatever answer he gives, probe a little. That's what developing executive functions. Similar in a school, bring out 2 sets of maybe learning centers. Do you want to go there or do you want to go here? Okay, I want to go here. Fine. Why do you want to go here? Is there anything special about it? That's executive functioning. Organizing. Give a lot of activities to the children in the first few years, organizing their toys, sorting big toys, small toys, sorting your utensils. You need not buy expensive stuff. Everything is around you. A small nature walk in the garden, pick up big leaves and small leaves. You are organizing it. Okay, pick up other things in the house, put all the spoons in the spoons racket. That's organizing. Lot of activities which helps in organizing. Today he organizes basic things from simple to complex. Like you had seen in that video of the brain development, everything goes from simple to complex, and then the complexity of the task goes up. So today is organizing simple spoons and forks and plates and small plates. Tomorrow he's going to organize, he's going to sort fruits and vegetables and leafy vegetables, and this, it keeps on going complex and complex. And tomorrow he learns is to organize his life, that if I have to go down to play, I need to complete this worksheet and go. I need to do this task and go. I need to do this. So all this have repercussions in puberty life, adolescent life, adult life. The entire frontal lobe controls the motor functions. That is how you sit, how you write, how you hold a pencil, how you will color, what you will do. You need to give lots and lots of activities for motor control, for balancing. So balancing rod, standing up on one leg, doing hopping exercises, lungri, whatever, climbing a jungle gym. These are all motor, for gross motor and small motor. Picking up clothes peg, picking up rajma chawal with tweezer, whole lot of activities. All this is for your motor functions. And of course, the frontal lobe regulates your emotions. So for your emotions, you will need simple storytelling sessions, sequencing sessions. You will have to create situations. You can have an emotion board, that today you are going to tell me whether you are happy, you are sad, you're this. You can have emotion stone, a whole lot of things as kindergarteners. Expressive language. Now this again is a part of frontal lobe. So you need to give children a lot of activities to express themselves. So try 4-line stories and tell them to fill in the gaps or put together. Every 5 minutes in the morning, listen to what they have got to say. In between, answer their questions, probe into it. Like, okay, why did you bring idli today in your box? Who prepared the idli? The talking has to come. So talking comes to imitation, talking comes to giving chance, words, building vocabulary. From whenever the child starts speaking, he has telegraphic speed, just one word. Compound it into sentence, try to put in words into a sentence. And for that, you will need to give a lot of activities, yeah. So read to lead, phonic program, a whole lot of things. Then comes putting thoughts on papers. lot of way. He's not going to sit and write like you and me. So I have sequencing, like you've told a story, what comes first, what comes after, what goes together. Like I have a washing machine, put everything that you will need in the washing machine together. So it's your detergent powder, it's your conditioner, it's the clothes, it's the washing machine. That is how you organize your thoughts on papers. Now this is done to picture cards, through small visual cards, because he still doesn't have the language to speak. But we have started the process. The brain needs it from 0 years to 8 years. So you've started remembering facts. So you can, when you're doing an animal, everybody knows the elephant is very big. But you can put in, like for a 4-year-old, you can put in, the elephant. It's usually not the mother who takes care of the baby elephant in a very simple way. So the mama has gone away, but it is an auntie elephant who's taking care of him. These are fun facts. Now that's going to be remembered by the brain. So there are lot of things. Task, storytelling. Now all this is a part of frontal lobe. So that is why when we say that stimulating activity, expressive language activities, hands-on activities, enriching experiences, and playful interactions are key to the frontal development of the lobe. Now, temporal lobe. You've already seen in the previous picture where is the temporal lobe. It's just just behind the frontal lobe. Now let's see what function it does. So it controls your speech. So a lot of speech exercises a kid should have from 0 to 8 years. You can put honey on his lips and make him lick it. Excellent speech exercises. Rolling of the tongue, removing the tongue, the pranayam, the dog pose, rabbit pose, all those are excellent for developing speech. And speech exercises has to be a part of a child's age from 0 to 8 years. Now the temporal lobe also looks into the auditory processing. What is auditory processing? It's listening to whatever is said, whether it's music or whether it's sound or whether it's speech, processing it and giving a response to it. That's the function of the temporal lobe. So you need to give very simple instructions to the kids. Like you cannot give multi-layered instructions. Go down to the left side, go down the steps, go to the left side, pick this up for me from the right side. It just doesn't register. They just keep on running around the house. So your auditory instructions have to be simple, short, and precise. Then the child will be able to do auditory processing. You also need to make the child filter out different sounds in the auditory processing. So that is what the temporal lobe does. So hearing, behavior, emotion, and fear are all a part of temporal lobe. So if you want to have control over the emotions, you need to give activities for it. Is the sound echoing by any chance? Is my voice echoing?
It's fine, ma'am. It's fine.
Thank you. Because I'm getting the echo. So you need to understand that temporal lobe is also controlling the emotions. How will I teach the child not to be very sad all the time? How do I make the child happy? If the child is snatching away things and is very angry and at all the time, what do I need to do to make him calm? How do I make him laugh immediately? How do I make him, channelize his emotions? How do I shift him from a sad to a happy? Because that's what the temporal lobe will need. No toxic stress. Most important, the short term and the long term memory is a part of the temporal lobe. So what activities you will do? You will see that your activities are repeated. One time odd activities are never important. For example, if you've learned to make pasta, you will need to make pasta at least 3-4 times, right? To get the right taste, to get the right thickness, to get the right consistency. Very important. Same way for a child, once the activity is done and forgotten about it, absolutely not. I'll just give you a very simple example that a kid of 3 years takes 10 months to learn 1 to 10. The entire 10 months he learns 1 to 10. It's so easy for you and me to say, "Arey, he takes 10 months. Why? Because the numerals and letters are very abstract. If you see all the numerals and all the letters, they have a standing line, sleeping line, either a curve like this, either a curve like this, or a slant line. With that combination, your 26 letters and your thousands of numerals are done, right? It's abstract for the kid. I join two slanting lines and have a cut and I suddenly get an A. Now to understand that 10 months letters are repeated and repeated and repeated in various forms. You may make him write on the sand, you may produce a magnetic letter, you can produce a slant letter, a wooden letter, or make him draw it on the sand, water, whatever it is. But you're doing so many activities for him to remember 26 letters for 10, 12 months. And that's when it goes into the long-term memory. So that is why repeated connections for those neurons and synapses are extremely important for the long-term memory to take place. If the letters and numerals do not go into the long-term memory, no base is going to be built up, right? So this is how it is all about. Yeah, another most important is the fight and the flight response. Please mark this as important. The temporal lobe controls the flight and the fight. What is the flight and the fight? And every child goes through this at least 3 to 4 times a day. When there is a lion in front of me, suddenly, okay, for a child it is, I have touched a hot iron, absolutely hot, because I was very curious. Once when I touched the iron, it was cold. Next time, my mama has put on the plug, switched on the switch and forgotten to switch it off, and I have gone and touched it. That's the flight response. The moment I put my finger, I scream and I run away. Secondly is to stay there and fight it out and see what's happened to my finger. Okay, all the time we also do it. Like I'm left in a dark room, I've suddenly entered a dark lane and I'm very scared. What do? I run for my life. I keep on running. A dog is running after me, I run, flight. Or I stand there, remain cool and let the dog circle me and see what's going to happen. Now it's not as easy. As the child grows a little older every time, the fight and the flight response gets more and more complicated. It's not as simple as you and I talking. And if he learns to deal with this fight and flight response with the help of his parents and teachers and caretakers, he's set for life. He's less under stress, and less under stress means there's less trauma to the brain. Less trauma to the brain is functioning to the optimum. So there are a lot of examples of the flight and the fight response as you grow older. It could be controlling your anger. It could be when you meet with an accident. So the key to maintain the fight and the flight response is how does a child deal in childhood with all the situations? And when he's confronted with these situations at that from 0 to 6 years or 8 years, you as parents or caretakers or teachers will help him to deal with that. So later on, he does not do flight and the fight response meaninglessly. Like I'll give you an example of an adolescence that we read in the papers and we are doing a lot of research on. Most of the adolescents, they start driving the car. They're young, they are full of life, and they have less control over their emotions. In their childhood, emotional quotient has not been taken care of. The temporal lobe has not been given those kind of activities to control his emotion. So he's going in his car, somebody dashes into him, out he comes out, and he bangs the door, goes into a fight. It's a fight and a flight response, punches that other person, is willing to do anything, and in that squabble, suppose if he's hit the other person, where the other person whose life is gone, and then he flights, he takes a flight response. Now the first thing that he had to do was remain calm, cool. So on a drop of a hat, we've seen most of the juvenile delinquents between the age of 16 to 20 years have no control over the flight and the fight responses because they've not been given those kind of activities in their childhood where the brain has nurtured them to stay calm and quiet. They've always been like this, aggressive. They've always, at a young age, taken to fight and flight response. Okay, so this is very important. So that is a little about your temporal lobe. Let's go to parietal lobe, which is your sensory information. Very, very important. All your sensory, what you need, whether how you feel, whether the cloth is coarse or whether the cloth is smooth, or whether the bark of tree is rough, or whether I am okay, or whether I want to pinch or I want to pull, it's all sensory. And children are born with major sensory issues in this 21st century. That is because of the changing lifestyle. And most of the autistic kids on the spectrum have major sensory issues. So this sensory has to be taken care at that crucial years. Now, I'm not going deep into the sensory, but children have to be given a sensory diet program. So in our school, we have sensory pathways, we have sensory wall, music wall, texture wall. So all the kids go through the sensory diet program. It's not something to eat, but it's a program to calm their senses for touch, feel. This time we have made a few things. We have calming box. We have a lot of sensory things for our children to take care of. So that is taken care by the parietal lobe. And of course, occipital is the another lobe which takes care of all visual information coming from the eyes. Everything that coming from the eyes, the eye sees how that processes the information, how fast it processes. So you're reading, you're putting your thoughts on the papers, your size, your letter is all a part of the occipital lobe. So that's where the language area will also be. And of course, your cerebellum is also there. This is the most important, the big brain and the small brain for our information. The balancing, the attention, the rhythm, the vestibular. Vestibular is the movement of the body. How do you balance the movement of the body? The proprioceptive. All this is taken care by the cerebellum, and the cerebrum also has its function. So now for the entire brain to function, these are the lobes, and on the lobes there are information processing pockets. For the brain to function, do you realize, my friends, that it is so very important that if you want all these lobes to function the way it has to function, you need to give them that kind of activities. So your timetable in a day for 3 to 4 hours has to have balance of all these activities. So there is singing there is music, but not meaningless music. It's not Bollywood music that you put on and the child dances. It's music for a rhythm. It's music to understand the rhythm of your senses. It's rhythm of your clap. It's rhythm. Sometimes music is for singing. Sometimes it is for different reason. Your dance movement therapy. Now your dance also for a child has to be movement based to release his energy, to calm his senses. So, and to calm his information processing, plus giving him a physical movement. So there are a lot of things that you do. There is a slot in your early childhood education for logical thinking, where you'll give him situations, give him worksheets, give him hands-on experience, something for investigation, so that the curiosity of the frontal lobe gets satisfied. So that is only done through activities, right? You cannot open a book and read about it. So now I'm sure by now you've understood why do I say activities enriching are so very important. And of course, that we've come to that network range where it says that your actions, sensory, feeling, behavior, executive functions all function together to give you that optimum synapses. Your 85 neurons are waiting for there to connect. Every minute they are wanting to connect. I'm going to show you a beautiful video and it will see that how they are so desperate to make in a new synapse, and when it does not happen, it just dies a natural death. So that brings us to our next part of our presentation. So this was all about the lobes and your 4 lobes of the brain. We're coming to a very important part of our presentation, nature versus nurture. So I'll just briefly close the loop for the first two part. We've seen what an amazing organ brain is. We've understood the neurons. We've understood there are billions of neurons. There are trillions of connections it needs to make. And we've understood those 5 keywords: enriching, stimulating experiences, interactions, playful, loving, environment, everything. We've understood the architecture of the brain, the lobes of the brain. Now we are going to understand the interplay of nature versus nurture in a child's brain. So let's go on to that. Very important. I want to stop here and I want you to quickly take to the chat box. What do you mean by nature and what do you mean by nurture? They are two different meaning for a child. Hold on. Yeah, let's take them to the chat box. Come on. A little activity.
Let's give them a few seconds. Nature means environment.
Perfect.
Nature is behavior. Nurture is how we grow them. Nurture is grooming. Someone's cheating over here. Nature equals genetic endowment. Nature is innate. Nature is which by default, and nurture is what we can develop.
Perfect. So we'll stop there. We'll be a little late. So let's open the box and see. Nature is genetics. It's as simple as that. It's something you get it from your parents. You have no control over it. But nurture is what you have control. So nature is coming to you by default. You get those 46 chromosomes, 23 from your father, 23 from your mother. It's come as a nice Pandora box into you. You have no control over it. You cannot change it. You cannot determine it. You cannot choose it. Simple as that. It's pre-genetically determined. So this is what you have. You may get the color of the hair, intelligence, you may get your height, your weight, you may get everything from them. Okay, but what about the other side? So so your brain has already got these things. Okay, you've got it by default. But the other side is nurture. What is that? That is your experiences, your interactions, your stimulation. That's going to play on your nature. The nurture is going to play on the nature and the nature is going to play on the nurture, and vice versa, the brain is going to develop. So both the genetics and the environment always have an interplay. It's like a marriage. They marry each other for lifetime, and without each other they cannot do it. So both are very important. Your genetically, whatever you've got innately built into you is something that you cannot eradicate, but it's the nurture that you can create. You can move forward, you can change, you can alter, you can do everything with nurture. The environment that you will give the child, the experiences that you'll give the child, the interactions that you will give the child, that is in your control, not the other way around. So now it's up to us to decide, what do you want to do? We've done a lot of studies, so I want to share with you some interesting studies. So we've done a lot of groups of children we've taken over the years, and below 6 years and all. We've given one innately intelligent kid, like I've told you. I had a kid who was 115 IQ. So we took a group of high functioning children and one group we took of average functioning children. Average IQ of a normal person is 100, okay? Below that is 95 and all. So we took two groups of children, high functioning and average. And of course, the one with intellectual disability means whose IQ were below 85 or 90. So these three groups, one, the high functioning group, we gave them no stimulation. We gave them minimum stimulations and interactions. The average, we give them absolutely brilliant interactions, we give them enriching experiences, we give them made a lovely timetable, we give them 3 hours of care giving, love, attention, activity based. And the third group, whose IQ was like hovering around 85, 90, we overgave them. We overstimulated them in a very beautiful way, of course, overstimulated where they were, it was needed. We found astonishing results. So one place we found that all the high functioning whom we gave bare minimum, but just progressed only this much. Okay, so for that we picked up children from the prison, from refugee camps after you know, taking their intelligent portion. So we put them, children who have put through all these kind of calamities. So their interactions and whatever we gave them gave us this kind of a result, where we did not see so much of brain development. But the most astonishing was for the children who was hovering around IQ of 90 and 85. They come under the category of children with learning challenges or children with special needs. Now we give them the best stimulations, best environment, best of everything. When we gave them that, it was so important that they groom so beautifully. They were like, we give them an early intervention program, and when we gave them that early intervention program, they went to the next level. I'm not saying they eradicated their learning challenges, but because the nurture, the environment was so enriched, they bloomed like nobody's business. They could overcome most of their learning challenges. And the average group, which we gave good interactions and good stimulations, that group, what we did was, that group prospered. Like you can say that they went to the next level of it. They could do better academically, and we saw to it that we took this research for next 10 years, and we found that these people, whom the children with IQ of 100, they started thinking out of box. They became creative. They were inventors. They were thinkers. And the one with very high intelligence, whom we wouldn't want to give them the best of stimulation, their IQ just died a natural death. So this is what we call the nature with nurture. So there is an interplay of it. So that difference is very important. So wherever you are, you have to understand that the environment will make the nature go to the next level, and it's not the other way around. Okay. So now coming to our most important part, what is that you need to give as enriching experiences to the children? Why are we stressing on it? Give them a lot of language development. Language development in terms of language development in terms of lot of reading activity, lot of phonic activities, lot of expressive activities, sequencing, storytelling, a little show and tell, talking about two sentences on it, giving them chance to talk, making them, spontaneous, lot of creativeness into them. Then experiential experiences, very important. Experiential experiences, everything hands on. If you are talking about fruits to a 3-year-old child, you cannot show it from the book or an audio visual. See that the fruit is there, you are cutting in front of the kid, showing the seeds, making him eat, smell, taste, whatever it is. So real experiences, that real experiences are going to make those synapses. Those are the experiences that will remember for a lifelong. And those experiences go from simple to complex. Lot of hugs, lot of smiles, lot of security to the kid, saying that you are in a safe zone, you are at home, you are in school which is safe. The smile, the greetings to the kids, the lovingness to the kids, a handshake, a high five, a hug, or pat on the back, or just ruffling his hair. And the genuineness of an eye contact is very important, so there is no toxicity to the brain. Otherwise, the brain will undergo a lot of toxic stress. See that your school is not safe from the CCTV camera, or your house is not safe with your CCTV camera. But even the caretaker, if you're going for work, it's perfectly all right. But see, the caretaker you employ, or the grandparents are able to give this to the kid, are able to remove time and give these activities. Even if you put the child into the daycare, it's okay. But see that the daycare is chosen with thought. See what activities are there in the daycare. Who is running that daycare? How many hours are there in the daycare? What are the different things that they do in the daycare? That's very important. And of course, learning should be embedded in real life, like real life experiences. Like if you're talking about a cow and you're talking about milking of the cow, in city there is nobody seeing milking of the cows. But at that time you can use a video of the cow, or you can go to a cow shed and take a very genuine video and play maybe the teacher going there. So actually in the pandemic and now, since our children are not visiting the field trip, we are actually doing virtual videos. Our teachers have gone to the restaurant, enacted there in the restaurant, sat in the restaurant, eaten food, taken the video, and they, as if they are talking to the kids, that now we are sitting down and now we are taking the fork in our hand. And this pandemic had got lots of challenges, but we saw to it that we tried to make learning experiences embedded in real life, try to give them as much as hands-on. And of course, a lot of physical activities in form of using home equipments. We have our sirs doing everything that is available at home, whether it could be a cushion, it could be a sofa, it could be a stepper, a small platform in your house, those kind of activities. And of course, in school you will have, he cannot be cooped up in a room in school. You will have to understand that. So next, that brings me to the next slide. So I've put it in circles that there are three people who are most important in a child's life for to strengthen those connections. I've already talked about you as a parent. You can be a parent come teacher. A teacher can be vice versa. Caretakers could be anybody. It could be your daycare. It could be your grandparents. But this simple things you have to give in mind. Remember, every time are you stimulating the child's brain? Is the positivity in your relationship or in that activity? Is there security in that activity? Is the place secure? Is the activity secure? Is that activity giving comfort to the child? Is that experiences giving comfort to the child? Is it establishing equality for the child? If all these five things are happening, then definitely those synapses are at the best. And definitely the synapses are growing very fast. And when it goes fast, it's simple that your brain is progressing at a supersonic speed. Very important. So to summarize this part in the next slide, your role, for teachers' role, lot of opportunities for play, lot of repetition of activities, but that doesn't mean you repeat the same activity in the same way. That's absolutely stupidity. The same, suppose if you have to teach the letters for 10 months, every time you teach a letter, it has to be a different activity, but the focus is mastering of the letter, okay, through different activities and lot of experiences. Now experiences have to be outdoor experiences and indoor. It cannot be indoor. If it's raining heavily, you cannot be teaching about farms and pet animals. You might as well teach the rain. Go out, see the sky, look at the sky. Can you tell me the weather from the sky? Is the sky cloudy? Is it gray? Is it white? Is it blue? That's what it is all about. That's where the synapses will take place. And if it is raining, what do you need to wear? Raincoat. Now, why a plastic raincoat? Why not a cloth raincoat? That's where your logical thinking will come in. That's where he'll learn to make decisions. Okay, let's put on a cloth raincoat. What will happen? You'll get wet. Now, if you get wet, what does happens to your inner clothes? Logical, abstract thinking. This is the way it goes. Okay, let's go and jump in the puddle. What has happened when you've jumped in the puddle? Water has splashed all across. Maybe your clothes have got dirty. Again, what will you do? There will be a processing of information taking place, decision making. I need to remove my socks, it's got wet. The teacher does not have to supply all the information. It's for the kids. She's a facilitator. The parent is a facilitator. You are not going to give prompt answers, not one way question. What is this? This is a raincoat. You cannot be like that. So your experiences also should have different kind of language that you have to use. Very important. Exploration, key word in a child's life. A child is a bundle of three words: exploration, spontaneity, and impulsivity. Impulsive, it's a part and parcel of his nature. If you, they say it in the creative world, they say, if you want to know an proper opinion of how you look or how this ad is, ask a kid, because he will be spontaneous, he will be impulsive, he will tell you on your face it's good, bad, and ugly. He does not know the language of diplomacy. He loves to explore, he loves to break, he loves to do things. Let him do. Don't give him expensive toys. No? He doesn't need a remote control car, because the remote control car is useless for him. It only goes one way, up and down. But if you give him a toy, which it's bound to break, he's bound to open it, get him only 100 rupees car. That's more than enough. So you won't feel bad about it. But he needs to break. He needs to explore the car. He needs to remove wheels. He needs to fix it. Yes, but there are kids who are destructive. Now that's another thing. That's a part that we need to deal it differently. So exploring new things. You will find a child under the sofa, some corner he's playing. He's removed your utensils. He's removed your clothes, and you are so irritated. But that's exploration for him. Dropping the dough, the flour, that's exploration. He loves dropping the atta in the house and then, rubbing his hands and it's all over the face. That's exploration. So you might as well give him only in a small tray and let him explore in the balcony. Otherwise, you're going to be in a mess. So there are a lot of things he needs to explore and learn new skills. Support exploration, support a newness in the child, celebrate his newness. Very, very important. Remember that when you're celebrating all these things, you are celebrating his brain. You are celebrating his brain development. And then there are a lot of examples of kids who have done a fantastic childhood with average IQ and who have become CEOs today because they got fantastic, rock solid support for, say, about 8 years. Of course, I've talked about celebrating effort is through a lot of motivation. Motivation is not star on the hand, that's bygone. Motivation is, giving him activity, likes, giving him time out to do certain things. Okay, this is your extended time to play. Don't bribe him that if you do this, I will get you this. Brain does not understand bribery. That's a very wrong pattern. Brain understands newness. Brain understands exploration. Bribery is not there in any of the lobes of the brain, right? You've not seen that. So please don't do that. And that's where you are, the child brain is developing through a negative phase. So you are responsible for that, because if you say, I love you, if you get a good report, it's condition. The brain is getting used to a condition. If I do this, then this will happen. If I do this, then this will happen. Tomorrow, this child will grow 16 years old. He's going to make you a condition all the time because you've nurtured the brain like that. So it's very important you celebrate efforts, even if he's made a kind of an engine and is very happy. It's not a perfect engine. That your other kid has made the most beautiful engine, but celebrate. Wow, it's so beautiful. I love the way you put the wheel on this. I love the way you color. There are so many parents whom we've seen or teachers we've seen. The sky has to be blue. I know it's blue, but sometimes the sky looks green because of the shade of the trees in the water also, no? Why do we need every child to draw blue sky? So whenever the blue sky is not there and the child puts a different color, from comes the answer, this is not right. He will learn later on the sky is blue. You don't have to teach him. He likes pink sky. Let it be. You can say, your pink sky looks nice, but the color, actual color of the sky is whitish blue, but it's okay if your sky is pink. That's the way you need to celebrate efforts. There is nothing right and wrong in that 6 years of exploration in the child's, or 8 years. So celebrate all that. There cannot be a perfect thing. His house looks wickety wonkety. It's okay, but he's exploring. This is how he sees his house. He doesn't see the house like you and me. Fine. So that is there. Most important are those last words: safe, stable, and secure and consistent. If you want the brain development to take place, you may give him all the stimulation, everything you've given him, but your environment has sexual abuse. You, God forbid, the child is not developing anything. So much of anxiety, so much of scareness. Suppose you've tried your best, you've put him to the fantastic school, but you've left him with a maid who beats him and pokes him and, treats him badly, and the child has no vocabulary to say. No connections are making a permanent base. So safety of the child, emotional safety, not physical safety only, emotional safety, physical safety, very important for the brain to develop. Stable environment. You may not be very rich. You may just be a middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class, stable environment. Same lovely activities. In fact, in the pandemic, we all have learned in this online that most of us have taken activities from your kitchen, your salt or flour or your garden or your pots or everything like that. You need not have a lot of money to do stimulating activities. It just requires out of box thinking. Different ways to replace. If you don't have a straw, can I take a broomstick? Can I take a gola stick and color it up? It's okay. It looks, if I don't have a straw, can I roll up and make a simple pipe straw by a simple paper? That becomes your activity. So it's very important that we have safe, stable, consistent environment. Consistent for the next 7-8 years. It means that if there is no consistency, every day there's new drama in your house, new tamasha in your house, you'll have fighting, screaming. How is it the child is not going to go under toxics? And then you say that we have been the best of parents. We have put him into such a hi-fi school. Nothing is working, by the way. Absolutely, it's going down the drain. So safe, stable, secure is very important. Let's look at some takeaway points. It's very important to have predictable routine structure for the kids. Another thing, for a kid's brain, structure is extremely important. What do I mean by structure? A predictable time to get up. I don't mean on a dot of 7:30, around 7:30, between 7:15 and 7:30. If your child is getting up at around 6 o'clock, see that it's around 6 o'clock. One day 6, one day 8, then second day 10. That is only for teenagers. People who are undergoing puberty, all are people whose hormones are going haywire, adolescents, they get up with all these timings, not a kid. Have a predictable timetable for him. That morning is the time to get up, wash, bathe. He needs a structure. This is the time he needs to go to sleep. One day he sleeps at 9, second day at 11, everybody is watching TV. It cannot be like that. Okay, over the weekends, we do understand, but structure is very important. Whether it's the nap time, eating time, everything needs a timetable. Why does it need? The predictability of neurons. They've predicted that most of the time, I'm not saying every day, most of the time, the child gets up at 8 and I have to start pushing myself. That's how the neurons work. They know there is some brain chemistry which we still don't understand, but there is a brain chemistry saying they need that prediction, and from that prediction they move. So there are times when you sleep very late, you have a hangover. What is that hangover? You're not able to function, right? The way it is. That is the hangover, because they themselves, the neurons up there, they do not understand that, okay, today I'm very late. They've started their day. Okay, something like that. Sleep, exercise, and regular routine. Every child physically has to get into the mold the moment he starts walking. So he starts walking, make him walk, climb up the stairs. Timings, morning he does it, afternoon he does it, but kids do it all the day. Perfect, let them do it on the day. They'll never get tired, their energy is never depleted. And that's how the brain functions. Sleeps in the night well, he needs 7 to 8 hours sleep. That's when the brain goes into a relaxed mode. The hormones are secreted beautifully, the chemicals are balanced. That sleep is very important for the child. Now, for the child to sleep, if he is given the most beautiful interactions, playful, he goes to sleep happily. He goes, puts down his head, and he's happy. You'll see many kids smiling in their sleep also because he has had a wonderful day. Wonderful day, like you and me, when we have a good day, we also sleep very well. For him, that is extremely, extremely important. That smile on his face when he goes to sleep. Comfort children just before the sleep. The brain needs a lot of comforting. It reacts best when it is comforted, when there is a hug, when there is secure. Your two words, it's okay. It's okay to fall down. It's okay if you've not got a star today. Mama loves you. It's okay. That's very important. Teacher loves you, rather than comparing two siblings and all. So everything is, that's what we are talking about, a peek into the child's brain. How is all this connected for the working of the brain? Most of us don't realize that everything is connected to the brain. Every sentence of yours till 8 years, 10 years, 15 years is connected to the chemistry of the brain, and make everyday experiences pleasurable and fantastic. The more the pleasure experiences, the more the child. And at this point of time, we've studied a lot of children. So when I see children who are there at 2 to 6 years with us and 8 years who've got all these things, and then I see them in the adolescence, they have less issues. They are more stable. Their hormones don't go haywire. They are more mature. They more understand themselves rather than children who have not got all this. So later years, it's a turmoil for parents to handle adolescence children. I'm not saying adolescence is a very easygoing stage, but definitely the brain has done so much of work that it settles down. Maybe 2-3 years it's turmoil, but more or less it settles down. You will not be at the wrong side of the law. You will not be a juvenile delinquent going to a home for being on the wrong side of the law. We've studied a lot of criminal histories of criminals. We found that they were, they had a very traumatic experiences in their childhood. They were bruised badly, they were beaten badly, they were abused, or they did not get what all that we were talking about. So there's bound to be an outfall later on. After 10-15 years, you will see a lot of outfall. And whenever you'll go to a counselor, pediatrician, what does they start with? They'll always start with the childhood. Everything is there into your childhood. It's everything what you will happen at the age of 16, you'll have to go back to 0 to 8 years, what was happening. I think that brings us to our next slide, which is, I think, a short video, and we will take it up from there.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two, from eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things building sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation, can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport, all those planes landing and taking off, and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead, and remember and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their mind. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
I love this video because it, in such a short way, it tells us what everybody needs. And as I'm telling you, it's very important that we take care of it. And that brings us to our last part, and then we'll have a Q&A session, a little bit on the food for the brain. Now, this is not that it will work all the time and you don't give experiences and you only give food. It's not like that. But these are certain healthy food that the child would need for the brain. So it's almond, first of all. If you don't have almonds, fine. Your groundnuts also can substitute for it, good enough. Any kind of nuts is good enough for it. So it's peanuts, groundnuts, all the nuts can be a part of it. Need not have expensive nuts like cashew nuts and walnuts. You can substitute it. Berries. Now there are certain berries are easily available in certain countries and certain berries are not available. But whatever it is, jambon is also a berry. So now that's not very expensive. Maybe strawberries are expensive and they are seasonal. So there are some seasonal berries and some berries which are easily available. Amla, vitamin C is excellent for nourishing brain. Now you see what different things that you can give in vitamin C, and amla of course is not very expensive. Gooseberries, maybe in our country it is expensive, but in other countries it's not very expensive. Then of course leafy vegetables, we have abundant of it. All kind are excellent for the brain. It's not broccoli is only excellent, okay, because broccoli is very expensive. Your simple methi, palak, all those vegetables are good enough. Fish, if you are a non-veg, it's the best form of omega fatty acid 3, which the brain needs continuously. So if you cannot afford any nuts, you can afford fish. Fish is one universal diet, is available, and it's not expensive and available everywhere. And yogurt, one more thing, but not flavored yogurt, not sweetened yogurt. It's just that simple yogurt that we are talking about. Eggs, it's a must because it's protein laden, it's laden with everything. In fact, yesterday I had some children who had viral, and when I was speaking to a doc from a very leading hospital, he says that we've advised children especially to have eggs and fruits even in the viral time, two boiled eggs to be given, especially because at that time the brain is like under construction, so very important. And water, for you and me, water is a lifeline for the brain, and so it's for the kid, because 3/4 of your body is water, and the brain is actually floating in a liquid, and it needs water to hydrate itself. So I want to tell you an example. If you've had a run, just done a hectic exercises, why do the trainers tell you to keep on sipping water? Because it's the water which relaxes your muscles, it's the water which hydrates the time, and it's the water that hydrates the brain. So without water, the brain is in a dehydrated, your body is in a dehydrated mode. And when it is dehydrated mode, what happens? There is a lot of lower oxygen level. Now, of course, when we fast, it's only for that couple of hours, but of course, then we drink water. I'm talking about water for days on, or on an ongoing habit, you have very little water. So it's okay if you're fasting, but then it's not 365 days of the year. So this is a simple thing, and that brings us into, we are perfectly on time, and I want to leave, we come to the end of our presentation. I'm sure you must have enjoyed this presentation. We come to a few question answer sessions. Because we would like to know your thoughts. If you want to unmute and talk, we are most happy. If you want to take to the chat box, we are equally happy about it. So over to you. Now it's your turn. I think I've given enough of my talk today.
There are some questions. Can I just reach
Yes,
to
please.
that questions first?
Yes.
So one question is, if bribery is not the way, then what is the difference between positive reward-driven teaching versus bribery?
Okay. So bribery is a condition. So the teacher loves you if you will complete your letters of alphabet. It cannot be if you've put a condition first. So you say, something that once you complete this letters of alphabet, I'm going to show it to your friends, and that will make your friends very happy and me very happy. There's a big difference between these two. Every parent says, if you get me a good report card, I will take you away, right? I will take you do this. I'll buy you a car. I'll buy you this. I'll buy you that. You cannot have a condition. You please buy the car for your child, whether the report card is good or not. But what you are going to do is, I know that you may have not done very well, but I'm very sure that you will do very well next time, and I have full confidence in you. That just two words changes the entire brain chemistry for the child. He knows that his parent has trust in him, and he will not let you down. The moment you say, I know you will do it, you know that he's not going to do it. But if you've told him you will, I know you will do it, Akshay. I know Mama knows that you will do it. And Akshay is there on a mission to see that he does it. He may not complete it. That time you're not going to complain, why didn't you do this? Akshay, I know you tried your best. It's wonderful. But I think next time you need to do this little bit. There's no toxic stress to the brain. It was taken in a very casual manner. Your words itself was very encouraging, motivating. And Akshay is on a mission to see that it is complete. So the brain works like that. And those connections are made constantly trying to do things what is pleasing his mother. And that's what you want. The connections are already done. Go back whenever you have to say something, go back to this knowledge of brain chemistry. You will know what to speak and what not to speak, rather than a threatening voice. If you don't do this, I will do that. If you don't do this, I will do this. It cannot be. If the brain gets conditioned that my mother likes me if only I do this. Her love is conditional. I'm also becoming conditioned to it. And that's how the next generation becomes conditioned to it. It's a vicious cycle. Yes. Can I have the next question? I would
Yeah.
to answer.
Sorry, just a second. Somebody was asking for the parietal lobe slides. I'm just putting it up. So
Okay.
yeah, now you can just ask your questions. Sorry. Amol, I think you were gonna ask the question.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a great session. Thank you, Masrat ma'am. I'm really happy and I'm grateful to you that you did such a beautiful session. And I was right from the beginning, I was sitting, and I couldn't get up. Like, I was literally each and every information was very nice for me. I was noting it down. I've got my notes also. I was taking up pictures also of your slides. And very soon I'm going to compile it in a very nice way so that it will help me, and it is a like a memory for me, not just a workshop. And I just want to know one thing. You have given everything about the brain development as soon as the baby is born, okay? But what about when the baby is in mother's womb? If you have heard of that garbha sanskar, when the baby is in when the woman is pregnant, in a Hindu religion, we have got certain sanskars to be done on a pregnant woman during first 3 months, then second trimester, and then third one. So the program is there. It is a developed. So are you aware of such program, or can you focus something on it?
Very good, Amol. I'm very happy you asked me this question because I have not put that in my presentation, but I will definitely put. So, the the time when the child is conceived till it's out at the ninth month, same thing happens for his brain development, though it's only 25%. The mother, in case if she's under stress, like she didn't want the baby, or it's an illegitimate baby, or there was a lot of complications during her pregnancy, she got blood pressure, developed diabetes, whatever it is. If that period, those 9 months are traumatic, the child's brain has already got a trauma, okay, has already undergone a trauma. And when a child brain's undergone a trauma, I'm not saying 100%, but most of the time we get children with autism, learning difficulties, ADHD, a whole lot of challenges, or intellectual disability. So whatever it is, if you have to plan a baby, see that you plan it only when you want it, and see that your 9 months are healthy before even if you plan a baby, like you're talking about Garbh Sanskar. Before even you plan your baby, your physical health has to be in good condition. You cannot, if your physical health is not good, you cannot be planning a baby, because nothing happens in the, if you start dieting in the 9 months and you keep healthy, but before that 6 months has been traumatic, let the entire body mentally, physically be off all the stress before you plan, because it's bound to affect the baby whether you like it or not. One thing. Secondly is that your first trimester, second, third, whatever it is, you have to keep yourself very, very happy. You have to have beautiful thoughts spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You cannot be under stress when you are doing that. That will have a big effect on the child's brain. And then people run from pillar to post and understanding what went wrong. Thirdly is that I want to pass on a very powerful message that when you are pregnant, take little time off from your work. I understand that the challenges of life are very high. Even if you're working, it's all right, but see that you're not sitting for long hours in front of computers. Radiation is less. Switch off all the Wi-Fi's in the night. Important. Let the blue light not be near you. Don't put your cell phones to charge next to your bed. It's harmful. It's very harmful. See that you talk to the kid in the womb. See that you are exercising, you are doing it every 10-15 minutes. Get up. Ideal would be to avoid sitting for long hours. But if you can't, then you should take that 20 minutes break, 10 minutes break, stretch yourself up, go for your walk. You need to do. So, as you said, good thoughts, good food, good ambience, atmosphere is extremely important. Otherwise, something will happen during the 9 months. And the delivery between the time the child is delivered, you have to again see that there's no long labor hours. Otherwise, every long labor, 10 hours, 12 hours, will lead to less oxygen reaching the baby. That should we do cesarean when the doctor says it? If you trust that doctor, I would say know the authenticity of the doctor, please do it, because prolonged labors will have less oxygen to the brain, and every less oxygen to the brain cells, when it dies, they do not rejuvenate. They are not like the other cells in the body. They will not be made up again. So that's my answer to it. Amola, I hope I've been able to answer your.
Correct,
We
ma'am.
have, sorry, we have a question by Snehal Bhatat.
Yes, Batu, tell me the.
Ma'am, can it happen? You told that we have 5 parts of brain, like a frontal lobe, temporal lobe, cerebral lobe. It happens sometimes that one of the lobe is less developed and other is developed very well.
I'm not very sure about less and more developed, but there could be a trauma to one part of the brain. So certain functions that lobe is handling, you may not be able to do it to the best of your ability. So, and sometimes maybe those activities have not been given you for that a specific lobe to get it. So then that brain does not function. So finally, this is only for our snail, for our understanding, all these lobes of the brain. But actually, the brain by itself functions as a whole brain. Okay. Like you've seen it in the video, they keep on connecting from A to B and B to C and C to D and D to E. So it's a very complex organ. For my explanation, I have done that. But overall, it functions as one whole. But yes, if one is underdeveloped, then those particular functions may take a backseat. Have you seen some people very disorganized, Snehal? You know, their clothes are all over the place, their things are all over the place. Now, it doesn't mean that brain does not function to the optimum. It just means that during the initial years, how to organize, giving them those organizing activity was not given at that time. So now the brain has got used to functioning like that. Now, when you have to learn and unlearn, it will take a long time. So then it just becomes a habit. This is what, as far as I know, this is how it functions.
That means we have to nurture it, our brain, with maximum activity.
Yeah. So you need to give organizing little things. It's very simple as activities. Put all your beads into the box, take the box and put it back. For kids, it is like that. Okay. Simple things. And as you grow, the kid grows older, your activities will be a little more complex. So these are my trainees who are asking questions, and I'm very happy. All from our Teachers Training Institute.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, please.
The session was very informative and it was really very helpful for me, especially. And my question is, ma'am, is there any particular time, like till this time only brain will develop?
No, there's no particular time. It develops all throughout your life, but it also depends on what opportunities. So don't say that after 8 years it doesn't develop. Okay, please don't get into this wrong notion. I want to clarify it. It's always interacting, enriching, but it's the fastest at this time. And those synapses are so many waiting to be connected. That is why we need to do all these. And when it connects at this age, 0 to 8, it will have the most lasting effect. But it doesn't mean that later on it was not developed. You have to understand that also. So, but there is no time like, okay, morning time is very good. Usually we say morning time children are fresh because they've got up from sleep. They've had a good breakfast, very important. All meals are very important for the brain, for the kid. So you cannot skip, and he cannot have biscuits and he cannot have chocolates. Those are not nourishing food for the brain. Good solid breakfast is very good. He needs that brunch time with idli, poha or khakra or whatever it is, of fruits, that 11 o'clock, 10:30, because it needs oxygen is needed. And how do you get oxygen? Not only from the air that you breathe, internal oxygen also has to be supplied to the brain. And that's when your food will convert it into glucose, and glucose will be converted into energy. That oxygen is energy for the brain. Got it?
Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure. Yeah. Any more questions? So in case if you have,
Ma'am,
yes, please.
sorry, ma'am, one more question. Ma'am, is it true that if we work with both the hands, with left hand and right hand, then our brain will develop more?
Good one. I really like this. It's that of course your brain is working better because you're using the left and the right to function. You are adapting your brain to a lot of challenges. It's something can there are some people who can listen to a music. All of us listen to music and learn, but there are some people who will listen to music and do two other things together. Okay, there are, so this is that midline activity for the midbrain connector. So you use both the hands for doodling, you use both the hands for drawing, and you're challenging your brain. And once you challenge your brain, you have to keep on challenging the brain. It's not only about activities, it's about the newness of the task. They say no, that as you grow older, learn one new skill. Why do they say that? Because if you want the brain to function to its optimum, you need to challenge it. Routine doesn't challenge it. Same time you're getting up, same time you're doing this, same time you're doing this. You need to take, it always says that if you're going to the same path every day from house to work and home to work, take a new path, because that sets you thinking. That will tell you, you look at the new shops, change your route, change your way you're functioning, do things differently, learn on new skills, because later on also the neurons need that, right?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Pleasure.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. How do you create a stimulating environment for your child during this testing times?
Testing time means during
This pandemic year, yeah. How do you create? It's very difficult and I don't know how to go about it.
I think the best time you as a parent can create is during the pandemic, provided you have the time. So there are two things first. First is the challenging time on ourselves, because we did not have maids, we did not have servants, we did not have many things at our disposal. But we had a whole lot of things in the house. And if we look at our house, if you ask my entire staff, for 1.5 years, they have used things only from home and created the most stimulating environment. So look around and make a list of the things that you can use. Your brain will come up with fantastic things. So just take a list. That's what we told the parents. Just go to your balcony and see what you have. Maybe you have 3 potted plants. Maybe you have a little soil. Maybe you have different kind of leaves. Okay. Now use that soil for tracing. Use that, make it wet. Use that same thing for 10 different things. Make a sand castle out of it. Use that to fill in a little pot for the hands for exploration. Put seeds into it. Tell him to find the rajma seeds, the chole seeds from it. If you look around, you'll get lovely things. Suppose if you wanted to do counting and you don't have hi-fi things, take 10 spoons, 10 forks, 10 clothes, hanging cloth pegs. You'll have to make a list of what you have. If you did not have, like I remember in one of our activities, we that everything was so much under lockdown that we did not have colors. Our children did not have colors. So we made it out of turmeric, beetroot, whatever we could get on hand. So we did finger painting with beetroot water, turmeric water. I still remember it. The activities can be very simple. Children don't need hi-fi activities. Children need stimulating activities. There's a big difference between
Yeah.
cost effective and stimulating. That beetroot water became a big plaything. They stored it, they kept it for 2, 3 days. They were using to paint. We did not have any paper, so use
Yeah.
newspaper, use all those things, use anything in the house. Maybe a cloth could be used and they could put it the brush with it, and maybe it could be washed again and used again. It's just that how will you create? So I also want to state the example that children from lower strata, they do not have many things at their disposable. Still, they do so much of play all around. They are playing at the construction site, they are playing with stones, pebbles, and still some of them, if you see, are great people. If you see Dr. Abdul Kalam, he was missile man. He was such a great personality. He was a son of a boatman, and if you read it, for years his father used to just play in the village, and he made us very proud by being the missile man, right? So it's not the cost effective of an activity, it's how that activity will be done. It's very, very important.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ma'am. This is Saili here.
Hi, Sai. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We don't have any questions on the chat box, ma'am.
Great. So I think we are very much on time. And in case if you have anything to convey to us, please convey it. You can write to us. But we would like your closing remarks before we sign off. And we hope you will be there for many more workshops. One is coming up on social stories and thinking routines. And before you get off this workshop, we would want all your love and support and all your comments in the chat box.
Yeah, now I'll hand it over to Arva for the
Yes.
closing.
Yes, Arva.
Thank you so much, Masrat Tawawala ma'am, for such an enlightening webinar on Peek into a Child's Brain. We were totally mesmerized by your insightful thoughts during the webinar. Speaking about a child's brain, the architecture, the millions of connections and the neurons that they produce, and the connections they make with the brain at an early age. The importance of play for the brain development. So well explained, ma'am. The nature and the nurturing, and how, as parents, teachers, and caretakers, we can take care of our children to secure a better future. We owe you a special thanks for touching on such an important topic today, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Arva,
And we are- yes, ma'am. Sorry.
go ahead.
Yes. And my dear participants, we have some upcoming complimentary workshops in October. If you would like to know more about our upcoming webinars and short courses, or would like to partner with us, do follow us on social media or send us an email. All the details are in the chat box. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a good day.